Seems fair to me.
Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make it.
Donnybrook is made possible by the members of the 9 Network.
It sure is, and we thank you for joining us for this edition of Donnybrook. Great to have you aboard. Let's meet our panelists for this edition, starting with Wendy Weiss, the media veteran from the Big 550 KTRS. One of our founders from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and STLtoday.com, Bill McClellan. Another founder, he's from the Riverfront Times and the Big 550 KTRS, Ray Hartman. And from 590, 97.1, the St. Louis American and STLmag.com, Alvin Reed, who has a big birthday tomorrow.
Wow. 59.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop. 59.
Schools and businesses will be closed in honor.
Act your age.
Yeah.
Act your age.
Labor Day is in honor of me, so, that was your day off.
Actually, it's in honor of the mother who was in labor.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
a quick story. My mom went into labor on Labor Day, and I was born on Tuesday, September the 6th. That's
very cool.
That's a true story.
All right. Well, hello to all the Reeds and happy birthday to our favorite.
I don't know if you wanted me to tell that story.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill McClellan, I want to ask you about Stan Kroenke. Civic leaders, the city, the county, the sports commission have all sued Stan Kroenke and the Los Angeles Rams for business interference and breaking business contracts, all that and more. And this week, a Missouri judge said that case would be heard here in St. Louis. And then the Rams decided to appeal all the way to the Supreme Court. And so, and that's the Supreme Court of the United States, right? My question is, now we're talking real legal fees as if we hadn't already racked up enough billable hours. Do you think the locals should still continue their lawsuit against Stan Kroenke?
Well, only for entertainment value. I mean, this is like, playing cards and you have kind of a weak hand and that guy over there throws a whole bunch of money in and kind of buys out the hand. If you have a weak hand, you say, okay, and you throw it in. I mean, we can go to the Supreme Court and we can make our little argument that, well, his name is Stanley Enos. He shouldn't have done this to us. And they'll make all sorts of powerful arguments. I think we should just say, Stanley, you won.
I think well, go ahead.
No,
on behalf of your husband, go ahead.
I disagree. I vehemently disagree. I think that when you have the NFL in a position, when you can play like Dowd Bennett, they're talking about possible deposing of NFL owners and committee members. That is the last place that the NFL wants to be, is in any kind of deposition. And I think that they violated their own, I know I'm not selling you, but they reconfigured their own bylaws to give it, to give St. Louis a kick in the head. And so I think they should pay for that.
You go ahead, Ray.
Well, a couple thoughts to my. One is I think an expansion franchise is out of the question. But
I don't know.
No, it is. I mean, with the NFL. But I have mixed feelings. I mean,
they don't want to give up
there's
any
an
money.
expression: if you're in for a dime, you're in for a dollar. In this case, if you're in for $17 million that we wasted on trying to fight this initially, then you can probably make a couple cases for continuing on. One being, it's probably not going to be heard by the Supreme Court. I think that was reported in your on your website that the Supreme Court isn't dying to take cases like this. So it's probably not going to be heard by the Supreme Court. The interesting irony is the Rams were arguing at the Missouri Supreme Court that it should go to arbitration because they don't want it to be done in public, first of all, because they don't want their business to be public.
Exactly.
And secondly, they said it would cost less. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm in for the entertainment value of it just to see what happens, but I think what's going to happen is it's going to get sent back, and that there's going to be a little show trial in St. Louis.
Okay, all right.
I think that's what's going to happen.
The reason that they don't want to be bothered testifying and all that, let alone in St. Louis, Jeff City or Washington, D.C. That's why we should just fold. Because they're telling you, hey, you can take your money that's on the table and just go on away and leave us alone.
No, but see, you're an emissary. You're an emissary of,
what do we
of Jerry
gain from
Jones
that?
and Ezekiel Elliott and his $9 million running back
And
contract.
you're right.
So
We got
that's all
plenty
you
money.
care about.
And Jerry has already called and said, like, take them all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court might kick it back. But then it has to be adjudicated again. It's not like you can just go back here and win.
They don't want to.
And Dowd and Bennett are very good, and Bennett is a great trial lawyer. But we're taking on the rich and powerful.
No, but you gotta understand.
And they're going to win.
But
and
the
they would
truth
put
is,
all this bad money
Bill, the
after
truth
it.
is
They're
on
not
our
gonna-
side. You
What?
were the.
Hold on.
I said the truth is on our
No,
side.
the truth is that the NFL came to St. Louis and had that dog and pony show at the Peabody,
Right.
which is now Stiefel or whatever. And the guy, I forget his name, but he said the rules are. I'm just telling you, the rules are whatever the owners of these teams say. What the rules are.
And the lease was clear. They
And the
could
lease
break
was
the lease.
clear.
Well, no, here's what's not clear. Okay, first of all, I don't agree. I think, first of all, it's going to come back to St. Louis because I don't think the U.S. Supreme Court wants to mess with this.
Right.
So that's the first thing that's going to happen, in which case there's going to be a trial with a St. Louis jury, and then it'll go back through the appeals process after they lose. But my point is
maybe
this,
our great
that I don't
grandchildren
think-
will get an
I don't-
expansion team.
I always said we got the Rams came here, we got them the old-fashioned way, which was to steal one from another city. I mean, we literally
Okay.
did that. However,
Right.
you can make the case, and I think St. Louis's lawyers are smart, that based on the relocation guidelines they set up, the Rams were free agents when it came to not playing in the Dome, but they weren't free agents for leaving. However,
Everybody in the league will dispute that, so you have all the
I
owners
think-
who
I
own the
think
league
we're
saying,
right.
these
All
are
right,
our rules.
let's
Okay,
move
we'll
on.
talk.
But a point of information. Remind me, Ray, because we are spending 12 million state dollars every year, 6 million county dollars, 6 million city dollars for the Dome. But before the Rams left, did you say we spent $17 million
we spent
in legal fees?
17 million largely in legal fees in what was obviously a ridiculous charade.
Okay.
Because there's a relocation.
that's all I need to know.
Let me say one thing.
Right.
The
For a city that
relocation
has
guidelines.
no money,
Right.
and we could use that
That's
in all
what I
sorts
was
of
screaming about the whole time.
community centers and whatever. Okay.
And
All
the
right,
point-
that's good.
and
All
the
right,
point-
let's
$17
move on.
million in the hole.
I was
Let's move on.
screaming
That's
about
enough
it
of
the
that
whole
topic.
time.
Ray, I want to ask you about another officer-involved shooting. Actually, two since our last week's Donnybrook. Number one was at the Galleria, where a fellow with some priors and some prison time, Terry Tillman, was chased across the street to the parking lot of the Simmons Bank, and he was shot and killed by a police officer. And now the police are saying, looks as though Tillman was aiming his firearm at one of the officers while another officer stopped him dead in his tracks. And then early this morning, there was a fellow at 1 o'clock in the morning in a car with a 7-year-old daughter, and there was a struggle. There was some pot apparently in the car, and another individual killed, this time by the St. Louis police. What's your overall impression of these? I mean, I know you've been asking for civilian review
don't do
boards,
impressions.
body cameras. What do you walk away with from this one?
I walk away with the same thing with both of them, which is no one wants to hear this in our world of 24/7 news cycles, but these things do need to be investigated, and everybody wants to have a narrative out there on one side or the other. And our president has forever, banned us.
Forget
from
the
wanting
president.
No, I'm
Forget the
saying,
president.
No, we
Just
don't
talk
wanna,
about
I don't
this
want to use
case.
the both sides now, but I'm saying in this case there are two sides, and I think in both cases, I think Wesley Bell looked very good by being out there in front to make it clear that this wasn't going to be whitewashed like so many other these incidents. However, I don't think there should be any presumption either way until the county police finish their investigation. And this one in the city is too new. I don't know anything about it other than what we saw headlines. You got to let the process take place enough before you start bringing your narratives in, I think.
I have a narrative. Don't have a gun, run from the police because you're going to end up getting shot and be dead. Don't wrestle or fight with the police if you're getting arrested because you're going to get shot and you're going to end up dead. Forget all the arguing back and forth. Until black young men learn this lesson, they're going to keep getting shot. Now, I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but I'm saying this is the reality of it. Put yourself in that situation and you're going to get shot and there's going to be an investigation and the police officer is going to get cleared 99 out of 100 times, and the one that he doesn't is probably video or witnesses to say something untowardly went down. That's the message. That if you want to take the message someplace, that's the message.
I
mean,
I would
police are
disagree that
scared.
message.
I got my driver's license today, which I almost let expire because my birthday is tomorrow. I had on shorts and a shirt and a tie. Why? Because I had a shirt and a tie on. Because the police are scared of black men right now, okay? And if you do anything that puts yourself in a situation where you could be shot, you're probably gonna end up getting shot. So when you read that, it's terrible, it's horrible, but it's a reality.
But Alvin, aren't you presuming, making a lot of presumption on the second case because you're just listening to the police version of events?
And it could be lies.
We don't
all
know
lies.
exactly what happened.
It could be
this
lies,
morning.
all lies. But I'll tell you what, the guy is dead, okay? And I don't think the police officer stopped the car in the middle of the night, smelled pot in the car, whatever, and shot the guy down. I don't believe that.
Well, it's hard to say, and that's why
All
a
right.
body cam or some
I
video might
agree.
be helpful.
I
Might be
agree.
helpful.
And Charlie, what I want to say is on the first one, Richmond Heights, and because I don't think we should say anything that biases either way. The one thing there is it happened right outside of a bank or in the bank parking garage. They talk about how there's 150 cameras between the Galleria and the bank, but particularly what's relevant to this case is what he was doing at the time he was shot. And you would think that would be something that would be on the bank's cameras.
I think we're going to find it. I think we're going to find it.
And just because I am kind of old school, I think we've established that. For whatever reason, I was a little uncomfortable with Wesley Bell saying that to the public, please be patient. He's the prosecutor. He should have he should have the goodwill of the public. He should have the patience of the public. I don't think that he owes. To me, that's setting up some kind of a trigger. It's I think it's fine to say we're investigating this instead of please be patient. To me, that's something that you say around a kitchen table.
Well,
I'm
I
sorry.
disagree with you, Wendy. I think that, first of all, they got to say something. I mean, you have to say what you know, even if it's nothing at the moment. And I think that Wesley Bell, especially elected as a changed person, that was an appropriate thing to say. Be patient. Please
Okay,
be
so
patient.
the next time an
think it was great.
investigation is dragging and people don't want to be patient anymore, and then they take to the streets and there's all sorts of damage done, then okay,
Well,
I'm sorry.
No, but people got to be.
I understand.
Maybe he's talking to the people in the streets.
He
The
could
people in the
just say,
streets, you got to be
the
patient.
investigation is continuing. We'll let you know when we know.
Can I
He did the exact.
Well,
okay.
I was going to say that part of this was stemmed from the fact that when the story first came out, the police said that the man who was killed was running away. Then they didn't say anything else except he was running away and a police officer shot him. I mean, and that leaves all kind of like speculation out there. And I think Wesley Bell had to say, like, wait a minute, I haven't even been brought the case yet to determine what's going on, and it's out there that a guy was running away and got shot by the police.
I think it was clear he was running away from the Galleria, but it was not clear that the police said he was running away at the time that he was shot.
I think it was not, to Alvin's point, there was an inference made by a lot of people based on that statement that he was shot. And I keep saying,
there was some
don't
group
have
called
a narrative.
Real STL News that showed up.
Wesley Bell did something his predecessor didn't do, which he showed up at the scene of an officer-involved shooting that wouldn't have happened before. And the second thing
some prosecutor probably would have been out there, right?
Well,
I mean,
they are generally not, because there was always
Wesley Bell, but there's no reason.
Well,
all right, okay, let's move on.
my point is he did the right thing.
Wendy, I want to ask you about a story that is all over the world now. The Guardian newspaper, Post-Dispatch, and that is that Monsanto, when it was Monsanto here in St. Louis, now it's Bayer, was investigating journalists and actually buying responses on Google so that if you typed in certain journalist names and Roundup, the search results would go to Monsanto. They were looking into the past of some of these journalists, even rock star Neil Young, who had been anti-Roundup and anti-Monsanto. He was being investigated, and there were internal memos within Monsanto on how they were going to go after Neil Young. Do you think this is a little bit beyond the pale for Monsanto?
I was not the least little bit surprised by the story that I was reading. I think that I just didn't think it rose. My immediate thought was, this is not Karen Silkwood. This is not Kerr McGee. This is oppositional research. Is Monsanto paranoid and probably very, very guilty? I mean, many juries have said that they are guilty. If you're going up, if you're a reporter or if you're a musician who takes on these conglomerates, these agrochemical conglomerates, you have to know that they're not going to say, "Oh, good for you." I mean, of course they're going to do something. I mean, I think that the skull and crossbones flag is, kind of over bare right now. They don't look terrific, but I'm not surprised at all that they're doing this.
Well, they're acting like they ought to be flying a skull. I mean, they're acting like Monsanto. I mean, it's like, what are they doing? It's like they're trying
to defend themselves from people who are cutting into their profit.
Defending yourself. What do they call it? The fusion? It's some kind of a
information fusion center.
They got an information fusion center. It
sounds like Richard Nixon's White House. I understand that.
I have friends who work at Monsanto, and they love it there, and it's great, for them. I have no animus, other than what a lot of the issues that are raised by what they do. But I mean, my goodness, they're doing. What is?
No, I thought it's way over the line too.
Well,
I mean, to be going after journalists and their personal lives and everything because of stories they've written. If you have a problem with a story, go after the story or sue the guy, but don't have this office of fusion where we're looking into people's lives and going after Neil Young. I agree.
But Wendy, what they should do is they should present the science. They should present the science.
They're presenting the science, and they keep losing.
No, they're attacking the journalists and the rock stars.
They keep losing. They're presenting the science, and they continue to lose.
Well, I think they're on very solid ground when they talk about their genetically modified foods, and they point out that the American Academy of Science has said that it's all safe and you're just fine, and that's when they win. If somebody has a problem with the GM food, you shouldn't be attacking the individual or the singer who has these,
writing phony reviews about somebody's book.
But you know that politicians do this, right? I mean, you understand.
I don't know about the phony reviews of books and stuff. That seems like it's just going too far.
That's what
That's what the whole Russian bot conspiracy thing was all about.
That's wrong.
And you said Russia. This infusion center, doesn't that sound something coming straight out the Politburo?
That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, wait a minute now.
And Neil Young. I mean, I could see maybe
Neil
going
Young
after
laugh.
going after Crosby or Stills,
right.
but not Neil Young.
Okay.
I mean,
Next thing they'll be investigating Barry Manilow. Hey, Alvin, what do you make of the state? Which I don't know. If medical marijuana is such a good thing, why does it need a new law keeping it 1,000 feet from a school? I mean, we're not worried about our kids walking by Schnucks or CVS or Walgreens that sell beer and opioids, are we? Why does a new medical marijuana dispensary have to be more than 1,000 feet away from a school?
Okay, in this, maybe grocery stores and stores like that aren't part of it, but I think in the city of St. Louis, you can't build a liquor store right next to a school or a church. I think that's in the city statutes. Maybe it's just a feel-good kind of thing, but I have no problem with it. In fact, if you said it had to be 2,000 feet, well, just find some place that's 2,000 feet from a school or a church. I have no problem with that. I realize that selling marijuana will be legal for those who have a card. In Illinois, just legal. But yeah, I'd say it's one of those things where do you want to explain to the kids right next door why are the people coming and going, teacher?
Why are they eating bags of Taco Bell?
I'm afraid that kids are a little more worldly than having teachers say, well, what are people doing congregating? Especially this is medical marijuana.
Right.
I mean, who are those people with the crutches? What's this about, teacher?
Well, what about Illinois?
I think it's all just
what about Illinois? Just people coming and going all day long while they're in school. It's right next to them. They're going to have. What are they doing? It's they're buying marijuana.
They're going to drop a joint and they weigh out.
I think a little buffer zone is okay. That's all I'm saying.
Is so far out of the barn. The barn torn down by now. No, I mean, first of all, I don't think there's any reason to do this. And in small towns, we had on our show a guy from Rolla, the Rolla city councilman who was forced by some religious right types to, it's a long story, but resigned from the city council over some past pot dealings. He made the point that one of the things got him in trouble was talking about this issue in a place like Rolla that can actually impact where as far as making it part of, say, a downtown or whatever. And the point is, they're not doing anything wrong.
No.
We approve medical marijuana. I mean, it's not a vice anymore.
I think this is the funny thing is it's going to work in reverse. I think if you built a dispensary or just a place where you could buy it in Illinois next to a school, it would probably end up that would be probably the least frequented dispensary or store in the area, because people wouldn't want to be walking up to that place with a school next door. Because
none of it's medical
I don't think
marijuana.
I don't think they're
No one's
gonna
afraid
care.
of going to the CVS or the
I
Walgreens
don't
or
think
the Rite Aid.
Well, look,
I don't think
if
they're
you
gonna
live
care.
in the same neighborhood where this is at, and you walking up here, and little Johnny, who's your next door neighbor, says like, "Hi, Mr. Reed," you know, like,
It's medical
It's Mr. Reed might have glaucoma.
medicine.
Do your homework.
Right.
Mind your
It's
business.
Okay, let me
All
give
right.
you another chance
You
at another
guys are
topic.
seriously little
okay,
Bo Peep
now you
tonight.
can redeem yourself on another topic.
What is happening?
It's been announced that, since I've been here, we've had at least 2 major studies of downtown St. Louis. Looks like we're going to have a third one, and we're going to determine what should be the future of Laclede's Landing and downtown West, which I think is the area that the new soccer stadium is going to be in, and some other areas as well. What do you think about St. Louis studying once again? It's downtown.
well, if anything, what I tell you, like if St. Louis said, like, it don't matter how many chains and locks you throw in them and throw them in the lake, they'll bubble back up. Like, if you bring it back something that was considered when Alvin Reed worked for the RCGA, you need to flush that down the toilet and start all over again.
And you did?
I did. I did. When I first moved back, I was there in 95 and 96. And, I mean, good intentions, but what, this plan had dust in it and somebody found it and blew it off?
Isn't it the same guy?
No, I want to defend this plan.
Okay.
Because maybe things were we were living the salad days back then. We had a football team, sort of. Tony Banks was the quarterback,
Touchdown
I believe.
Tony.
Touchdown Tony. But still, we were kind of full of ourselves back in those days. And maybe they just sort of shelved the plans, and now they deserve another look-see. Why not? I have no problem at all.
I actually would like to see us do a study of our studies and
Stop
try
it.
to determine which ones work better than others.
And are worth
I had the
studying.
dubious distinction, I think, by myself on the show of defending the idea of a study on the Metrolink security, because it's highly technical and it needed to happen, and we needed to bring in experts who know these systems
Well, let's
around.
not argue about the Metrolink
No.
study, Ray, because I still think that was a bad idea.
Well, I don't. And I think that what we did there made sense, because you're bringing in experts who know this. Downtown, I mean, I really don't see why we need to keep studying the problem. I guess if they want to spend their money on it, they can. As long as it's not, is it taxpayer dollars?
Some kind of way.
of course it'll be part taxpayer
they-
dollars. But
I don't
the point
think
is
there's
this.
a window.
Look
It's
at
like
this.
they're
I don't
only
think
going to
like
look
the way
at
they
it.
describe it, though, that 95 plan was putting the dots down, and now
we're gonna connect the
years and
dots.
years later, we're going to connect
There's
the
a
dots.
They
difference.
actually, in the 2 plans, they actually have made some progress, because they improved Washington Avenue since
Right.
that 95 plan. They've improved Market Street with City Garden and the Soldiers Memorial and more. I mean, that's much better. And they improved the old Post Office Square with the
Right.
Schnooks and more. So,
And
I mean, those plans actually
2 of
came to
4,
fruition.
Right?
Okay.
2 of 4.
And we're going to get an aquarium. That's been in the
right.
number
we
of
already-
plans.
And the
been, yeah.
But
Ferris
that's
Ferris
wheel.
wheel.
We already did it. I
Yay.
just don't. Look, if they want to do it, it's fine with their money. But
All right.
I'm
But there's a
saying,
window.
If St. Louis was a car and you busted
Okay.
out the 1995 repair manual for 2019, people would look at you like he was crazy.
Well, no, they're going to
If
get a
the
new
car-
study, I
yeah, if
think.
the car-
Okay.
It's fine.
Hey, let's ask you, Bill McClellan, in about 2 minutes to go. Sorry about that. If I could speak English, I'd be dangerous. I want to talk to you about this police officer who shared a heartfelt experience on Facebook. It was later picked up and put into a column, I believe, by Todd Robertson of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. In this column, the police officer talked about the terrible human loss that he sees in the city, and he said, we need help from the state. Well, it turns out he's not supposed to be opining like that, and so now he's the target of an internal affairs investigation. What do you say?
I think it's crazy that they're going to investigate the young man. I mean, it was a thoughtful piece, and there was nothing hateful about it. And I think the police department is well served when officers are allowed to speak and not have police spokespersons all the time. I thought it was a nice piece, and I think they're crazy to investigate them.
I thought it was a nice piece. I thought it was a beautiful piece. The next one won't be nice and won't be beautiful. I'll give an example. Let's say a black police officer went to Facebook and then got published in a newspaper that the place was rancid with bad cops and racist cops and on and on and on. They said, like, look, the rule is the rule. you have to follow the rule. Now, I think it's wrong. I don't think he should be, investigated or get in trouble. But at the same time, he did violate a rule, and he has to answer to that. And I think I just think that's fair.
I'm with Bill. I think it's a bad rule, and I think this whole idea that we can only get information through carefully monitored channels.
Sure.
Well, but as a journalist, I admire the guy for doing it.
And you talk about community policing. This guy. Okay, I'm sorry, Wendy.
No. I agree with Alvin. I think it's a dangerous precedent because if you let when the heart's in the right place, you let them do it. Somebody else's heart's in the right place. Maybe they've had a few cocktails and it comes out completely differently. On social media.
All right.
Social media.
Hey, we're going to surely get some phone calls from you on your turn, which is just moments away. But first, let's check the mailbag and see what you had to say about last week's program. Joyce McGrath wrote, since Rex Singfield is offering reward money, how about if he helps us fund the witness protection program, which might incentivize people to come forth and talk? Joyce lives in Normandy. Thank you. Greg Pace wrote, when Mr. Brennan commands, but don't touch that dial at the end of Donnybrook, to what dial might he refer? Mr. Pace lives in University City. And you can write us care of KETC, 3655 Olive Street, 63108. Don't forget those emails and those tweets. And you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, TuneIn, Google Play, and beyond. And the birthday boy is probably going to set off the fire alarms. There he goes.
Happy birthday.
59 years young tomorrow, Alvin Reed.
And 5 candles for each decade. And one more year, you'll put another one on there?
It's 6 next year.
There we go. All right.
Hey.
Cake. And then cake for everybody.
Right.
And Ray and Wendy are going to be taking your phone calls on your turn, so don't go away. Have a great week.
Donnybrook is made possible by the members of the 9 Network.
Welcome back to Donnybrook, Your Turn. I am Wendy Weiss, assisting the star of our program, Mr. Ray Hartman. And it was a lively program, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts. So give us a call.
Let's go to Diane from Pagedale. Hi, Diane.
Hi, Diane.
Hi to both of you. I moved away from my television, so I can't see you. But my comment is on the situation that happened at the Galleria.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I grew up in Webster Grove. And the areas that we knew not to really walk through was Richmond Heights, Brentwood, because the cops were so darn prejudiced and racist. Mm-hmm. Now, I feel the young man was wrong for carrying the gun. That I'm agreeing with. But he wasn't flashing it. And my concern is, why do the officers always have to shoot? How come they can't use a taser? I work over in that area, too. I've given 3 young black men rides to the Metrolink because I've seen Rock Hill, I've seen Makewood, Richmond Heights, I've seen Clayton harass the black guys. Now, I've seen white kids walk. You don't see them, like, harassing them. So I feel that I would not believe what the Richmond Heights cops said, that the young man flashed a gun toward him. I don't believe that.
Okay.
I just think they should be more conscious to use a taser, because you're killing too many of our young black men. That's my comment.
But thank you so much, Diane. The one thing I would point out is it was the St. Louis County Police that made that statement, not Richmond Heights. The St. Louis County Police are investigating it, and it was a Richmond Heights police officer. I'm just sticking to where I am on it, which is to wait for the information. But we appreciate the call.
Thank you, Diane. Let's go to Jim in St. Charles. Hi, Jim. Welcome to Donnybrook. Your turn.
Hi, how you doing? Well, thanks for the call. I just want to say about Walmart. I want to do one thing. About 40 years ago, Walmart donated millions and millions of dollars to the right to work in the state of Missouri. And the money went to say that the reason why companies were leaving the state of Missouri was because of the unions. The unions back there 40 years ago should have jumped up and said something about that and really defend themselves and say, no, you were wrong about that. That wasn't a reason why these jobs left Missouri. The reason why these jobs left Missouri, because they were cheap. They could have went to right-to-work states. They could have went to Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, etc. And then, instead they went to China. 99% of products in Walmart is made in China.
Okay.
3 years ago, Stan Kroenke took his team out of Missouri. Now, 40 years ago, we should have done something. People, like, say, in their 60s, 70s, and 80s and older. And now the younger people in the state of Missouri can do something. I think the only way you can hurt Kroenke, Bill, and the rest of you is to hurt them with their pocketbook.
Okay.
Going to law court and everything, they love that.
All right.
You hurt them with their pocketbook, the only way you hurt Kroenke.
Okay.
Thank you for my call, okay? And I'll see you. I'll be listening to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I can't figure out why the unions, if the unions had that kind of information 40 years ago when the unions were much stronger than they are today, why they didn't act on that or go public with that.
As far as the sentiment, I know everybody knows what Stan Kroenke is thought of in St. Louis. I don't think there's much hurt in him. He and his wife are worth $12 billion or some amount or more than that.
But, we like to tell ourselves $12 billion, but they're not happy. Right? That's what we tell ourselves.
Well, you never know.
Thank you,
But we
Jim.
appreciate the call, Jim. Let's go to Jackie from St. Charles. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, thank you all for taking my call. Good evening, Wendy and Ray.
Hi.
I wanted to comment about the shootings. I don't understand why is it so that I feel that they feel I just feel that people feel it's okay for white people to carry guns for their protection, and that's the way we feel as blacks. We feel we can carry a gun for protection. As the sister of the brother said, he has a record. He's been in trouble. He's not a great guy, but he carries his gun because he knows he's not a great guy. We have respect for the police, but look at these instances.
Right.
I mean, they're in fear of their life. They shouldn't have the job because we're paying taxes for these people to murder our children. And don't get me wrong, I respect the police and I know they have a hard job, but you have to realize that they're taking our children away from here and due to the fact that they're in fear of their life. They're always in fear. So they don't need to be police officers if they're that scared. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I think when you see the footage in the immediate aftermath of the El Paso, Texas massacre at the Walmart there, and you see the suspect who obviously, I think he gave himself up or threw himself on the ground or whatever he did, you see the police officer putting him into the back of the squad car kind of gently, as police officers, they're doing that to protect the suspect because that is his right as an American citizen. But I could see where, as the mother of if I were a person of color and if I was the mother of a son especially, I would be thinking about that image. And again, we would ask everybody, including our esteemed caller from St. Charles, we do have to wait until the final report. And, at this rate, I'm already getting a little concerned about what that final report is going to reveal and how it's going to be received. But we're really happy that you called, Jackie.
And I actually think we had a little argument today on the show, but I think Wesley Bell did the right thing, and he did say he was right to urge patience, and I think he was talking to the community as much as anything else. So he was there which I thought was very important. I think he struck the right tone. I will say, the problem, the complicating factors in this case are, even though Mr. Tillman certainly didn't fit the profile of people who are shooting up malls right now, the Galleria, I think, properly has a no guns policy, and that was not helpful. That plus he's not able legally to carry a gun. It puts things in a perspective that we have to. Really, it comes down to whether it was the proper use of force at the end. And it was obviously a tragedy. His family, you could not be anything but moved by the support and the outpouring of love from his sisters and his mom. I mean, it's a hard thing to endure. So much of this violence we see, and whether it's the kids dying all the time or this, it's tough. But this situation, we really do have to wait for the facts to come in, I think, before we make broader judgments. Who's next?
Let's go to Pamela in Cherryville. Hi, Pamela. Welcome. You're on Donnybrook. Your turn.
Hello. How are you folks tonight?
Good. Thank you. We're fine.
Oh, and happy birthday, Alvin.
Okay.
He's having his cake.
He is.
I was going to say, what is it, the 90th? I'm just kidding. I
Not
just
quite.
wanted to comment on the marijuana issue.
Hmm?
I never believed in it, never smoked it, never did anything with it, but I was diagnosed a couple years back with rheumatoid arthritis, and my bones are just going to, downhill. Let's just put it like that. And my sister, who lives in Illinois, turned me on to, she said, well, try this. So I took a little hit. Actually, I took two.
Okay.
And you know what? I got a little relief, more so than the ibuprofen, 800 milligrams, that the doctors keep giving me, which has destroyed my liver, my kidney, and it's like, you know what? I'll take a few hits, and I'll drink a half a cup, not a half a glass, of wine, and I'll relax, and the pain eases up. So I don't know why everybody's throwing up their arms. It's not like it's methamphetamine.
Right.
It's not like it's heroin. It's God's herb,
Right.
if you ask me.
Well, good, Pamela. And a lot of people don't realize that this passed overwhelmingly in Missouri, and one of the reasons it passed overwhelmingly is the medicinal purposes of marijuana are real. I mean, the easing the symptoms of chemo, people with glaucoma. There's a lot of very clear-cut medical evidence that it is a helpful, legitimate drug and a much better alternative than opioids.
And because we all know and love people who have been diagnosed with just that kind of a malady, Pamela.
And yes, I am in favor of it for recreational use too. But this isn't. So far,
that's not what it is yet.
It's legitimate, and that's why I don't think the dispensaries should be treated like any other legitimate business. I don't think they need to be any particular distance from anything. So, but thank you for the call, Pamela. We appreciate it.
Thanks,
for your
Pamela.
candor. Let's go to Jerry from Peevely. Hey, Jerry, what's on your mind?
Hey, I got a comment from an earlier caller about the difference between black and white and carrying guns. Whether you're black or whether you're white, if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to carry a gun or have a gun anyway. And if you're in the Galleria, you're not allowed to have a gun in there. And if I'm not mistaken, do not the county police have body cameras now?
This wasn't a county police officer. It was a Richmond Heights police officer.
Yeah. Okay. Now,
and again,
I'm going to go back a ways.
I thought a county police
Go ahead.
officer. No, I'm thinking out loud. I apologize.
There may have been county police officers on the
thought it was
scene.
one of each.
On the scene, right?
On the scene, there might have been, right. The police officer who did the shooting was Richmond Heights.
Okay, I'm going to go back a couple years and don't get excited before I get finished here. I don't know what it costs to settle with the Michael Brown family, but if St. Louis City police officers all had body cameras, it would have been cut and dried, black and white, whether he was wrong or whether he was right in this shooting. And there wouldn't have been any, there would have been no suing, no settlement. It would either been right or wrong.
Okay.
Now, why don't they go ahead and find the money somewhere, whether it's from Purina or whether it's from the Cardinals or the Blues or some big name people? Why don't they find the money for these body cameras?
Okay. Well,
like the shooting the other night in North St. Louis.
all right, we appreciate the call. We should point out that Ferguson wasn't obviously a city officer, but I will say this. I am in agreement that all police officers should be wearing body cameras. Absolutely. And I think it's the party that's most protected by a body camera is a good police officer. And so it's exculpatory when there's any question. I do think this. I want to say, I think that the tensions and the fear and the distrust in the African American community toward police is a very real thing and a real problem, and it has to be addressed as best we can. And whatever the outcome of this Richmond Heights case is, really doesn't change that. It's something that has to be addressed. And I certainly, you can sit here all you want as a white person talk about it. I really do understand. I really, as much as a white person can, empathize with that feeling. And it's my friends who are African Americans don't have to have the talk. They do have to have the talk about, what happens if you encounter a police officer that I, as a white parent, don't have to have. So, having said that, though, I don't think anybody should be prejudging this case or the Richmond Heights police until we have the facts. That's all I'm saying.
Jerry, we thank you very much for your phone call, and let's move to Jim in Webster Groves. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
I have a comment about the Facebook issue and the police officer who posted something that apparently is being looked into or reprimanded. So I used to work for the state of Missouri, actually, the Department of Natural Resources, and sometimes have to go out and investigate things. And when we would get back, we would get calls from reporters. And when I first started, that was okay. We could talk to reporters and say what we had to tell them, and they would get, the information that they needed. Later on, they had a policy that we were not allowed to talk to reporters or newspaper people, and that all calls had to go to the public information officer in Jefferson City, who would then have to call us up to find what the heck it is they were calling about. Mm-hmm. And I thought it really sent a message to the staff that the staff was not to be trusted, and that they really wanted to control the information flow. So I think it's absurd that this guy who wrote something on Facebook is now it's like the thought police. You can't really say anything without your employer just worrying about what they're going to say. And no one's going to say, unless you're stupid, you're not going to say anything really negative about your employer, because then you're inviting, retribution there. So I just thought that was pretty bad.
Well, that's great to hear. Appreciate that story, Jim. As a journalist, to me, it's unambiguous. This trend in government in general, trying to control the flow of information and prohibit government employees of any kind, whether it's police or others, from talking, is something that, certainly those of us in newspaper journalism are never going to find acceptable. And I know social media is different, but for people, but I think. I just very much. I'm with Bill McClellan. I just think it's
high-profile people, Jim, have been embarrassed and find themselves no longer employed because, and I'm speaking locally of a few anchors, because of some of the things that they shared on Facebook, and even politicians. It's come back to hurt the reputations of some politicians. And if I'm a member of a police board and I see how incendiary, intense the relations are already between the police and the community, all it would take, if you give tacit approval to one tweeter or to one poster on Facebook, then I don't know if you're taking a huge chance there, and I think that's the thought behind it. But I do understand Ray's point as well.
And I was just, Bill and I tried to make this clear, but obviously we're not winning the argument.
No, you're winning.
Well,
it.
I'm just
You're-
teasing. Let's go to the
Jim.
Twitter. Thanks, Jim. Let's go to the Twitterverse. From Craig Riggins. I live in downtown West, and there is a nice vibe to it. A study is useless. Washington is established. I would like to see locust, pine, olive, and chestnut east of Tucker to come alive, too. Thanks for that thought.
At JDR 1949, clearly Monsanto does not have a heart of gold. Well done. I recommend that they keep searching.
That's a good
Thank
one.
you. Very clever.
Very good. It's also from Craig Riggins. The best thing for everyone is to wait until the county prosecutor makes a public statement in the Galleria shooting. The prosecutor's office has not confirmed or denied the preliminary report. The suspect was reaching for a weapon. That is accurate, and thank you for that.
At Holy Star 77, the recent revelations about Monsanto's unethical behavior are not surprising, but should give us pause. How many other firms are devoting this amount of resources to discrediting journalists and obfuscating the truth about their practices? We thank you at Holy Star 77, and your tweets are welcomed. Hashtag Donnybrook STL.
Those were like 4 great tweets.
They were good
Really
tweets.
good.
Very
Very
good
good.
tweets.
Appreciate that, Twitterverse. Keep them coming. This is, let's go to Reed from Chesterfield.
Hi, Reed.
How are you? How you doing tonight?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks. I just wanted to talk about the policeman that wrote the op-ed piece. You know, it wasn't 4 or 5 weeks ago. I was watching TV and I saw the graduation ceremony for the city of St. Louis police academy. And one of the comments made was, well, all these fine young men and ladies are going out and save the city, and we're still short 160 policemen. And now I wonder if I were a recent college graduate, maybe in law enforcement, and I read this op-ed piece from this cop who was just putting out his feelings from one night. And I thought I might be a cop. How many people like that do you think change their minds real fast?
You mean because?
And
Okay.
I think that that the ending phrase, "I'm tired of looking at dead babies," had something to do with it.
Okay,
Agreed.
well, thank you.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I thought it was wonderful, and I thought it was really, when we talk about improving relations, for an outpouring of emotion that shows the humanity of a police officer, that's great. And if somebody else uses Facebook in a way that gets them fired, so be it. I mean, that's a consequence of free speech. I just think the sunshine is such a great disinfectant, and that it's such a great idea for officers to be able to express themselves, and if there's consequences to it, so be it. But
And
the
I know
point
that
is,
I'm not
this
going to be-
really, this humanized. This was a real positive thing to see. I mean, it showed. I think it was great.
I think we're all in agreement that those law enforcement officers who save lives, who protect and serve, who really are absolutely heroic, they're very different from the rest of us because they don't react. They don't react with emotion, and I think what this police officer wrote was really very, very touching, and I'm sure that it's been something of a comfort, as much as anything can comfort families who are grieving the loss of their children. But at the same time, if you decided, because you had previously wanted to be a police officer and this changed your mind, one emotional tweet being, or one emotional Facebook post being, maybe getting a second look, then maybe you shouldn't have been a police officer in the first place. And I realize I sound like I'm 125 years old, and I do humbly apologize. I'm just trying to present another view. But
right.
Reed, thank you.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Reed. And who's next?
Mary in Jefferson County. Hi, Mary.
Hello, guys. I'm calling about Kroenke. Is it true that Kroenke, the judge, said he's got to come back and testify over moving out of St. Louis?
No. He does not.
That's not true?
No, well, there
Not
may
yet.
be not yet, and I don't know
What?
that he personally would have to testify in any case. But I mean, I guess
if you are
there's-
if you're called and you have to be deposed,
he might
would- yeah.
he might have to. I think it's possible if there's a trial in St. Louis.
And that's where the fun starts, Mary.
yeah, but it's
Oh,
not
it certainly is.
okay. Well,
I would
we'll see.
just love to have Stan come back to St. Louis after the way he trashed us when he moved.
Right.
I surely would love to see all of the fans of the Blues hockey team line up and give them a piece of their mind.
Well, thank you, Mary. I know that's a
I'll be with you
popular
at the
sentiment.
city limit,
I
Mary.
don't. We have to check, but it's a civil trial. I don't know that he can be compelled personally to in a civil trial to be. I don't think that's accurate. This isn't like he's been accused of a crime. Although a lot of people in St. Louis would like
Well,
to
I don't
of-
think Lord Vader is used to
I get it, but I'm just
appearing
saying
in court.
he's not going to have to personally appear. They're not going to force him to come here. Let's go to Elaine from Concord Village.
Hi, Elaine.
Hello, you two. Well, I've been trying to get on this your call for so long.
Well,
and
glad you made
finally,
it. It's all because of us.
Finally happened.
We'll take the
A
credit.
person called in last week about ammunition, and I have been trying to. I have written letters to Mayor Clay. I've written letters to Mayor Bosley. I've written letters to Mayor Creason about stop selling bullets. And I did get a call when I was out one day, and they said the NRA would have a fit if we would stop selling bullets.
Right.
But there has to be a way that they can have to get their bullets by going to the police station and telling them what they're going to use it for. What police officer is going to give them bullets for those, I call them ACAC guns, for those big guns that sell that.
The AK-47s, right?
Right.
Right.
I agree with you. I think that certainly the ammunition needed for the high-powered weaponry, the military weaponry that's on the streets, outlawing that ammunition. It's not an original idea. I want to say it goes back to, was it Daniel Patrick Moynihan had it? It was somebody back a long time ago had it. And I thought it was a really good, it's still a good argument. It's a much more practical, I agree with Elaine.
And Elaine, you'll be happy to know that
that's a good way to
apparently
go.
one of your letters fell into the hands of the Walmart Corporation because they released this week their decision not to sell some of that
Some of it,
ammunition.
right,
Yep.
exactly.
So
thanks for the call.
Keep writing letters, Elaine. Thank you. Let's go to David in Soulard. Hi, David. Welcome. You're on Donnybrook. Your turn.
Thank you. I first want to really thank Diane, who called from Webster Groves, and the black woman who called from St. Charles for calling in and expressing the view that there's a real problem in how quickly young black males are considered dangerous by the police. Every year, this as long as I live, every time you celebrate Alvin Reed's birthday, I will be remembering Liz Brown's death, which is the same day. And I wonder if Diane and the woman from St. Charles were old enough for listening to AM radio, because Liz was discussing these issues every weekday for 4 hours for years. And I just have to observe again, it's such a tragedy. None of you ever asked her to substitute for you on Donnybrook. Leaving that subject just briefly, though, for the police more generally, I work in a profession where I see a lot of transcripts, and in the late 80s, I gave a talk to an explorer group of kids who wanted to become lawyers, and expressed my concerns about the amount of lying that goes on by police officers, and an unusually muscular young person followed me out to my car and said to me, I'm really glad you told those kids police lie. I'm a police officer. I'm the first police officer in my family. I've been on the job less than a year. Actually, it was less than 6 months. And he was already astonished at the fabrications and embellishments. That's not what he said. Those are my kinder terms for what he said. That he'd seen in that time. Thank you.
Thank you for the call.
Thank you, David.
Let's go to David from Rock Hill.
Hi, David.
Hey, how you doing today? I'm gonna make this short.
Okay.
You know, the day after the Richmond Heights shooting, I was in Walmart in Maplewood, and I was in line. And I saw 2 police officers walk up towards my lanes. I said, I know they're not after me because I don't steal. So they went to the next counter over, and they, when the man came to the end of the counter, they stopped him, escorted him outside. As they escorted him outside, I saw a big
David?
gun in the
Yeah,
back.
David,
But you know
we're
what they
so
did?
sorry.
We're gonna have
You know
to.
what? They was in force. They was in force.
Thank you, David. Thank you for the call. We're sorry we ran out of time. It's been a very interesting. Your turn. Thank you all, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye-bye.